two, one. Welcome to That Song, Your Song, My Song podcast. Today we have Greg from Tioga joining me via Zoom. How you doing, Greg?
Pretty good. Thank you for having me.
So we were talking a little bit before the show, and we're pandemic acquaintances, as you said. Since we've been talking over the last couple of weeks, I had a chance to check you guys out, and you guys got some cool sounds. You released Imaginary Friend last year, and you did the full length in 2018, Lodestar. I was listening to Lodestar a bit, and I always hate giving bands like comparisons, because I know from being in a band that a lot of the time they don't make sense. But I got like kind of like a Smiths vibe. That kind of like post-punk cool vibe going. So how's the last year been? How was it releasing music during a pandemic?
I mean, it certainly was not as we had envisioned it. I know talking late 2019, early 2020, we were talking about all the time that we were going to take off to, go and try to tour on some, do a release weekender or something like that. All those little plans that you make that seem like something you take for granted, and now a year plus removed, just seems so alien. Like, it seems so alien to talk about like planning that kind of stuff now. But no, I mean, it forced us to kind of utilize tools that had always been available and other bands were using to get ahead and grow their audiences. But we, either because we felt like we didn't have to, or, we're leaning towards other things, didn't learn how to utilize until we were forced to. I know how to use social media and the internet, obviously, but really nailing down the art of trying to get people's attention in that space, when the only way to get people's attention, because live music is taken away from you. So in that environment, it was very different. It was a very different challenge. But I'm still proud of the material we put out, and at the end of the day, the song is the song, and the song will speak for itself. So that's kind of what we hoped for this release this year.
Yeah, I know what you're saying, and it's a strange time to, like, I'm sure you can relate that I love, like, my favorite part of music is the live show. I love recording. Yeah. I love recording in the beginning. And then towards the end of it, you don't even know what it sounds like anymore. And like, nowadays, being a musician, so much of it is in the digital space and learning how to be a musician in the digital space. And sometimes I feel a bit archaic in my like internal resistance of that. Not that I have anything against social media, but it's hard, because the art, like you said, the song is a song. That's the art. That's like what we're good at. And then navigating everything else is a whole new platform. And I'm honestly a bit surprised to hear you say that, just because one of the things I was thinking as I was diving into you guys is you have great, like, the art, like the cover art and kind of your whole image is great branding. It's very like, you have like even the singles, it's like very like square and like specific images, a specific style. Your band pictures are a specific style. It all, like, you did a great job. Like, it makes me feel like I know the band and I'm part of the band. So yeah, cheers to that. You guys are doing a great job with that.
I appreciate hearing that, because, we put almost as much care into curating the visual aspect of what we are putting out content wise, as much as we do the audio. And in my opinion, it's kind of about, now more so than ever, it's about creating a mixed media experience for the people consuming your art. Whether it's like a 6-second canvas on Spotify, or it's, you know, leaning more heavily towards music videos, or music videos that are lo-fi and you can execute on your own.
Mhm.
Uh, you know, it's like you're seeing it more and more. Everybody that's putting out music has some kind of complementary visual content. But as far as art goes, we try really hard to compartmentalize into eras, kind of. Like the single art, all the way back to the singles for Lodestar, were all images that were around the same theme. And then the Break Me In Suffer art that we put out in 2019 for those two singles was, you know, iconography as the center focus. And then, but there was a different, you know, aesthetic that the artists that we commissioned, you know, put their own spin on it. And then for these two singles that we did this year, Imaginary Friend and Bad Things, you know, that was kind of the same focus on the iconography, but then, you know, a different artist's take on what we were going for as the central thread for everything. So as far as future art goes, I'm not sure how we're going to marry it, but yeah, that's always a big art discussion. When we talk about the music, we also talk about the visuals that accompany it.
That's cool. That actually leads to my next question. I was going to ask you is there one person in the band who's heading a lot of that, or is that everybody's kind of like as a collective you're coming up with the whatever the singles, or you know, specifically you said iconography, focusing on a type of art or a type of way to present it?
Yeah, I think creatively, specific to the visuals, but also kind of just in general. Usually, the initial vision is mine, whether it's for the music or it's for you know, the sonic direction, or it's for the visual direction. I'll have an idea and we'll kind of just bounce off each other. But the nice thing about our band, the nice dynamic in our band, is that we have kind of all, I mean, it is democratic and collaborative, but also each of us has kind of carved out a niche in the way that we relate to each other, where we all kind of fit in to different areas of this, you know, gestalt machine that we've created creatively. And like, I kind of liken it to like, I I'm the guy who comes with, like, if we're baking a cake, I'm the guy who comes with the idea for the kind of cake that I want, and then that goes to Austin, and Austin knows the ingredients that have to go into that cake to accomplish what I'm describing to him, because I don't have that ability on my own to know, oh, you need this amount of eggs, this amount of flour, whatever. Derek, the lead guitarist, he'll come in with a grocery bag, and it'll have cumin in it and cinnamon and chocolate cherries, and half that stuff works, not at all, and I hate it. But then, like, there's one thing he pulls out of his bag that becomes like the most memorable thing about the song that I love. And then Henry, our drummer, is kind of like the guy who's like, okay, how are we going to package this? How are we going to do it live? It would be cool if we put this break in here. So no, we all have our own specific ways of chiming in on the creative process, but I would say usually the ball starts rolling with me, but we always talk about how it would not be a Tioga product without everybody's input, and that's not just a platitude. That's real, and speaks to our process.
That's cool, man, because I think that that's the way that a lot of bands hope that it'll go. That's kind of the ideal setting of everybody bringing their own thing to the table. And I think that typically it tends to lean in one direction more than others. But so you said you introduced everyone. Austin, would that be your bass player?
Yeah, so Austin plays bass, and then studio wise, he does a little bit of everything. He plays bass live, but studio wise, he's got a little bit of, he's a jack of all trades for sure, and he handled our engineering and stuff like that.
Cool. And when did you guys start?
And then
When did you guys
Derek's
get
the lead
together?
guitarist. And yeah, so our origin story, we all met in college. We went to Drexel University in Philadelphia. I know I listened to a previous podcast of yours with Mo. I know that you guys are Temple alum.
Yeah, Temple alum.
My fiance is a Temple grad, but we were actually I when I came to college, I had a band in high school that fell apart as everybody went their separate ways, and I actually spent like a year and a half or 2 years just not doing live music. And it's kind of one of those things that little by little just your entire world just kind of grays out, and it's almost like one of those things that when you have it back in your life, you remember how like special and magic it is, but like as it recedes from your life, other like white noise kind of just replaces it. So I decided that I wanted to give it a try to get back into it again. And the guitarist in our band, Derek, I knew from a class that we were in together. And he was booking shows at a house on Temple's campus. It's like Diamond Street. I forget what it was called. I think the kids called it the Rat Cellar. I'm sure there have been a million pop-up home venues called the Rat Cellar at Temple, but this Rat Cellar was especially dumpy, and yeah, he booked me to play an acoustic set on my own. I had no written songs, and I was coming from the high school world of playing covers to people at like carnivals and stuff in my small town. So he was like, yeah, like this scene really is more originals than covers. So like you're going to need to do mostly originals. Derek told me that the night of. So I wrote like 3 songs before I got over there, and just played this set. And then by the end of the set, Derek was like, we need to start a band. And he had recently gotten out of a band called Poster Child that he was in with Austin. And that was like a Drexel house band. And we met and we put it together. And it was the 3 of us for the first 12 to 16 months of the band. It was the 3 of us. And then we were kind of just whoever of our friends in the house scene would drum for us that night was our drummer. And then Henry came along, and he was fronting his own project at the time. And we were planning on going on tour, and we didn't have a drummer because the guy that was going to drum for us on tour backed out. And Henry was like, hey, in addition to lead singing and playing guitar, I also play drums, and I'd love to come on tour with you guys and drum. And by the end of that 10 days or so, he was our drummer. So that's how the band formed.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And I love your guys' name. I have a specific reason for loving it. I used to have a rehearsal space, or the Retnans used to have a rehearsal space on Tioga Street in Port Richmond, and I loved that word.
Yeah.
And like there's a bar right there called the Kensington Pub, and like some of the locals would call it the way they would say Tioga was so fast that it sounded like Daga, like Daga. They'd be like Daga Street, they would just, I can't even say it the right way. So when I saw you kind of on the internet, saw you guys' name starting to pop up, I was like, that is a great name. So one of those like wish I had done it first moments.
Yeah. It took us a little bit to come up with a name that fit and that we liked. But I do remember looking around Philadelphia for inspiration and trying to find words or things that I didn't understand, and Tioga stuck out to me, and I looked it up, and I found a book online that was like written by this guy who like went in the 19th century, walked all around the Northeast, speaking to Native American tribes in the area about like the different words that certain like places were named after in the region. And Tioga comes from a Native American word that means like gathering point or rendezvous place. And
oh, that's cool.
yeah, so that kind of that sang to us because we all kind of come from different areas. I mean, when I say different areas, two of us are from New Jersey and two of us are from Pennsylvania, but we all have relatively different backgrounds and different perspectives. And the band was kind of like the nexus of all those different perspectives. So that's how we tied in that old meaning for the word to what we felt we were forming as a creative collective.
Yeah, yeah, and I totally know what you mean with coming from different areas. I feel like I don't know if it's like this in other places, but in Philadelphia, like even living in West Philly compared to North Philly is like two different states. And then being from Jersey is like a different country to Philadelphians.
Yeah.
You know, like it's like I feel like our big little world over here is that's a thing. You know, I have friends who moved, like I live in Fishtown now, and I have friends who moved to South Philly, and it's not like they live in a different world now.
Yeah.
You know, like we're like taking spaceships to each other's houses or something if we hang out.
Yeah. Well, when I would take the subway from 33rd and Market to Cecil B every weekend, and you're right. It's like a totally different place. It's like coming out of the tunnel and being on another planet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I used to date a girl who would say that going to West Philly is like something you have to do for a whole weekend. Like you can't just like go during a day. It's like a whole nother planet or something. And since then, I feel like I've kind of adapted that. Even though like the guitarist in the Retinas right now plays or lives in West Philly, and it's like he lives so far. It's just also it's laziness.
The fun thing about Philly to me is like, I mean, obviously it's neighborhood by neighborhood, but like it can go block by block sometimes, just how different each of the blocks are.
Oh, definitely.
Like houses, like the different architecture, like you can kind of tell, which houses all went up together, and it's very interesting. I mean, I don't want to be the guy that's like, oh yeah, Philly's totally, unique in that way. But I'm sure you've been around. Of all the cities I've been to, that's kind of been my impression that is something that's kind of unique to Philadelphia. I mean, and especially talking to people who come up in other like indie underground scenes. I mean, Philly's culture of putting on house shows is semi unique and revered amongst at least other urban scenes. It's like it's not necessarily something that you can find in New York City. It's not necessarily something you can find in DC. I mean, we've tried.
I know. DC and Baltimore. Though I do have some friends who've put us up and been very gracious with us. I'm not talking about you. But DC and Baltimore, like I kind of assumed when we started touring that every city had a house show scene because that's how Philly is. And DC and Baltimore, it's like, where do you guys go for music? If it's not like the smallest venues are like 400 plus. So for any band that's starting out, it's weird to break in. And New York's a little better because New York has Brooklyn. I mean, the Manhattan scene's all right. It's a bit like posh.
We have played in a backyard in Brooklyn before. I remember we had to like excavate the stage basically with like the owner of the house handed us garden tools. We found a dead rat. It was great. We shared one mic. We were standing on plywood. It was fun.
We played a show in Brooklyn, and that was at a separate house, and then we went to a party afterwards at another house a couple blocks away. And it was a bunch of college kids. And then there was this one random 55-year-old man. I totally gave that number. He looked 55. And this was like maybe April or May. But he was just walking around the house dressed as Heath Ledger's The Joker. And wasn't like belonging to any specific, like, like in parties kind of faction off into their own little bubbles,
Yeah.
He wasn't like like I couldn't place, and everybody there was just like okay with this random guy. Just I was like, is that guy gonna kill us? Like he's just as the Joker, and he's not talking to anyone. He's just stalking the party. Um, but yeah, you're right. The house show scene culture is definitely something that's special in Philadelphia, and even like just going to different cities, like I think Greensboro, North Carolina, has a great scene. But like when you go to something called a city, you expect like the skyline,
Mhm.
or something that's like, oh, this is the city. And like going to like some cities, there's like one building that you see as you're coming over the highway, and you're like, that's the city. I feel like I'm just sounding like I'm talking a bunch of shit on cities. I love
Yep.
all the cities in the U.S. and there's
The
so
fine
much good
line.
music and bands, but
No, well, and I'll even go. I'll offer it the other way. Like, you know, I love Philly skyline. New York is impressive, but we played one of the last times we were out. We played the Elbow Room in Chicago, and I just remember like there's nothing on that drive there, like through Ohio and Indiana, and
oh yeah, it's flat.
and then like you like turn a corner or something, and it's just like this humongous just wall of skies. It was borderline intimidating when I first laid eyes on it. I think Chicago wins out of all the skylines I've seen.
I would agree with that. I had the same experience of for hours you're looking at just flat earth, and
Yeah.
then and then like I remember getting a bit of anxiety when you come into seeing it, because it's like so much stimulation for your eye after so little stimulation. And then there's weird parts of the like just the plains where there's just miles and miles of the windmills, the
Mm-hmm.
windmill like wind energy,
Yep.
and it's like some War of the Worlds kind of thing where it'll be flat, and then all of a sudden you're in like a 10-mile stretch of just like this alien like windmill farm.
Yeah. Well, so the night after, so we played the show in Chicago. We left Chicago at midnight, and we had to make it to Davenport, Iowa, and that's like a 3-hour drive from Chicago
Mhm.
to Davenport. Um, so we got into Davenport at like 3:30 in the morning, but just like you said, like I thought we had died. I because it's the same like pattern of movements in the car. It's pitch black. You can't see anything. Every 50 miles, there's an airport on the left, and every 20 miles you'll make a banking right turn this way. It felt like I was in a simulation, and it's just like repeating the same, like on the edge of the world or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's it's certainly something out there.
This is one of my favorite parts about the podcast is I love talking with bands who have also toured, because especially like starting off touring before like playing those living rooms or backyards where you're finding dead rats and doing those 10-hour drives through the middle of the country. It's like there's no experience like it, especially when you're
Yeah,
like run out and hungover.
yep, yeah. It is such a special way to gain a perspective on like the kinds of people that live in this country, and just
Yep.
all the kinds of people that there are, all that, like, you're not stopping, you're not getting the highlights. You're literally trudging your way through these very, nondescript places in the country that are so like simultaneously so beautiful and characteristic. And I might just be a sap for the otherwise dreary Americana, something inspired, like a dusty Wendy's in West Virginia inspires like a warmth in me that I'm sure maybe for other people of higher tastes it doesn't. But like there are just things that like remind me of other things, or like things that we have in common in some of the most understated places, all throughout the country. You know what I mean? It's like everybody's got that overpriced Hooters on the highway that's part of a strip mall, or
Yeah.
like it's just there's and the other thing is like when you're when you're at the level that we were at when we were touring all the way up, through whatever, you're doing everything on your own and you're planning all that stuff and you have no lifelines relatively. And like, you're sharing that with these people that like, when you're done, you all have shared that experience that, nobody else had. And you all have these amazing shared experiences that are truly once in a lifetime to an extent. And like, I'm sure as bands get bigger and like stuff gets nerfed and like you have somebody who's managing the tour and you've got a bus now and you're staying in hotels and stuff, like I'm sure some of that like character, like I can still tell the story about, and I won't, without naming names, I can still tell the story about the time Derek peed in this person's sink the night that we were over with them, because it was like the person who we were supposed to stay with while we were on the way to that city said that they had mono and that we couldn't stay with them. So it was like we were going to a friend of a friend of a friend's, who when we got there was like a bottle of wine in, and I had to take care of this person. Like, I don't know this person. If she dies of alcohol poisoning while we're here, we're going to go to jail because they're going to suspect some like I have no idea who to call if this person like doesn't wake up tomorrow. But yeah, it's just like moments like that are just stuff I'm going to remember the rest of my life, for better or worse.
Yeah, you're totally right, man. And like, obviously I have like a ton of Philadelphia pride, but like you learn things about parts of the country and towns, like the first time we played Greensboro, North Carolina, like the house that was not only hosting our show threw us a party and a barbecue. And it's like,
wow,
like that kind of love or Southern hospitality, like I never experienced in Philly, like usually when you get to the house, you're like stepping over. I mean, same thing down there, but like stepping over the beer cans or like trying to like load in the icy snow, and like, and every town you play, every house you have, whether it's good or bad, has that little bit of warmth, that little thing that you're taking with it or with you on the road. So yeah, it's a cool experience.
yeah.
I couldn't recommend it enough. I feel like it's like what people look for when they travel Europe, or like when you go on a backpacking trip. It's like kind of built into a tour, and that's what's cool about it.
Yeah. Well, and honestly, it's kind of like formed my whole perspective on the unearned proclivity to want to go to Europe or do this or do that. Like, I mean, I'm sure those places are beautiful and gorgeous and unique and special, and I'm sure there are valid, wonderful reasons to go visit. But I always say, like, there is so much of this country that I haven't explored yet, and there's so many like different things to see in like just this country that I can get to with my car. It's like I've got all of this low-hanging fruit in the form of the contiguous United States. That, I mean, like, I haven't even seen the Pacific Ocean yet. Like, why am I going to go to spend money?
That's true. It's true. It's a big country. We forget that.
Yeah.
All right. So today we got some Fleetwood Mac that we're covering. Let me make sure that Logic is still recording. Yeah, it looks like it is. So we're each gonna. So the way we usually do it is I'm gonna do a song. You'll do a song. I'll do a song. We'll do a song. We'll nerd out a little bit about it. So the first song that I'm gonna do is Dreams, which I had a bunch of fun kind of arranging because I can't sing high like Stevie can as much as I wish I could. So I'll start us off with some Dreams.
Awesome.
Now here you go again, you say you want to freedom. Well, who am I to keep you down? It's only right, and you should play the way you feel it.
sound of your loneliness like a heartbeat drives you mad. In the stillness of remembering what you had and what you lost and what you ate and what you lost. Oh, thunder only happens when it's raining, and players only love you when they're playing. And they say women, they will come and they will go. When the rain washes you clean, you will know. You will know. Now here I go again, I see the crystal vision. I keep my visions to myself. It's only me who wants to wrap around your dreams. Have you any dreams you'd like to sell? Dreams of loneliness like a heartbeat drives you mad. In the stillness of remembering what you had and what you lost and what you ate and what you lost. Oh, thunder only happens when it's raining. Them players only love you when they're playing. And they say women, they will come and they will go. Oh, when the rain washes you clean, you will know. You will know. You will know. Oh, you will know. You will know.
Awesome.
Since I couldn't go high, I had to go the complete opposite.
Very cool. I liked the chord phrasings that you were doing there. It was very a totally different imagining of that riff. It was really cool.
Yeah, at first when I was trying to decide what I was going to do, I love this song, and it's mostly like the bass. It's going like that F to G, and it's like kind of dancey. And I felt like I wasn't able to like keep the song interesting, just rocking that. And then it's like an F major 7, so I was like, I'm just gonna take the weird parts of this chord and try and make it like a waltz or something. Yeah, and it was fun. It was fun doing Fleetwood Mac because since Stevie has such a specific sound and a specific range that she operates in, I have to like kind of find my own way because I'm not gonna. It's like anybody covering Kurt Cobain.
Yeah,
Like if you're gonna cover Nirvana, you can't cover Nirvana like Nirvana. You have to like find your own thing,
Yeah. Well, I think what you are touching on is interesting because I think what you're talking about is kind of like subverting the sonics of what the artist intended. And that's really cool because that is like kind of something that we are talking about right now when we're planning our 2021 content is we're collaborating with like a couple of artists that we met online basically throughout the pandemic that participated in either our podcast or who we knew otherwise. But we're going to do right now it's planned that we're going to do 3 singles throughout like 2021 into 2022. And we're going to have these folks cover our songs, and then we're going to cover their songs, and we're going to do a split.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So, but like planning that stuff now is like these artists that we're collaborating with have such distinct styles, and it's like, what is the 180 degrees of that style, and let's try and do their song like that.
Yeah.
That we have ever done as a band anyway, but it's fun to take that challenge onto yourself and, you know, kind of step outside your comfort zone and you know, do a 180 on instead of just trying to be Stevie Nicks or just trying to be Kurt Cobain, doing that. So yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, thanks, man. And I feel like that's kind of like a part of the artist journey, you know, is finding your place in like when we all, I don't know if you have this experience, I shouldn't say we all, like when I started playing music when I was a kid, like you want to be Kurt Cobain, you want to be Jimi Hendrix, you know, like you see these videos of Hendrix shredding and I'm like, I literally want to be that guy. That looks like so fun. And then the older you get, as you kind of discover your writing style and what you want to say to the world and with the world and for the world, you realize that you can't be, and there's kind of like this separation or detachment from that and finding what is just yours to offer to the world, you know?
Absolutely. But at the same time, like trying, like the practice of attempting to wear those hats, to try on those costumes.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yeah, it's part of it.
That's what's forming your, you know, your creative, your artistic signature all the way along, you know? So it's like, I mean, whether or not you ever become the Elvis impersonator or, you know, like Bob Dylan does, or, you know, scream like Steven Tyler, it's like, if those are the 3 guys that you grew up trying to be, you know, that amalgam will inform the rest of your art, you know, as much as you let it, I'm sure, you know. And it's like, it's not like we don't pick stuff up along the way. Like
oh, definitely.
You know, I wasn't always a huge, I mean, I'll say flat out, I've said this on a couple of other podcasts before, like I'm not a huge like I'm not a fan of Morrissey the person necessarily.
So you have gotten the Smiths before?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's like, it's something that you just like wear, and it's like, you know, I appreciate that. And it's like, you know, a lot of influences that you find late, like it took David Bowie passing away for me to listen to his whole catalog, and I was like, oh wow, this is wild, like I love this. And then, you know, it's like I'm always like, what would David Bowie do when I'm lost for inspiration or something? So yeah, but I'm glad that you picked that song to cover, because that's like one of our favorite songs to play out if we ever need like an extra song in the set. We did a show in 2020, actually. It was like our only live show. We played it in November when we had that unseasonally warm weather. You know, where what is it called? It's not Philomoka. It's we played a show in South Philly on a roof.
Oh, the Pharmacy.
Yeah, thank you. Pharmacy. We played on the Pharmacy's roof, and we needed one more song at the end. And that was like, it was like around the time where the guy on the skateboard with the ocean spray was popular.
Yeah.
Everybody, like, it was in everybody's conscious. It was kind of in the zeitgeist. So we were like, all right, let's pull out Dreams. And yeah, I love that song so much.
Yeah, it's so good. They kill it.
Yeah.
So what do you got going on for us today? What's gonna be your first one?
All right, so the first one I'm gonna play is
whoa, you just pulled that guitar. I was ready for you to take a little walk back. You got a couple of guitars on the wall. That one was hidden.
Misdirection. I am going to attempt a song off of Tango in the Night called Big Love.
Ooh, I'm excited for this.
Let's see here.
Looking out for love in a night so still. Oh, I build you a kingdom in that house on the hill, looking out for love, big, big love. Said that you love me and that you always will. Oh, you begged me to keep you in that house on the hill, looking out for love, big, big love, just looking out for love. Big, big love. I wake up alone with it all. I wake up, but only to fall. I wake up alone with it all. I wake up, but only to fall. Looking out for love, big, big love, just looking out for love, big, big love.
Hey,
Hey,
sounds great, man.
that guitar was a little quiet. I promise it's just fine on the Logic file.
Oh no, it sounded great. Your voice sounds great too, man. I like it. You kind of had a bit of a Elvis twang to it in the way that you took to the song. It was cool.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, Elvis. I spent a lot of my formative years trying to ape Elvis. You know, harkening back to our earlier conversation.
Yeah. Is that an Epiphone dot that you're using?
No, it is it's close. 335 Gibson.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah,
I couldn't see it. I got my Epiphone here, but I used to have a guitar that looked just like that it was an Epiphone dot that I loved. But that is a sweet guitar. I love that.
Thank you. Yeah, I pined after it for a long time, and I saved for a long time. And you know, I trolled Reverb probably, you know, every other day basically to find the right deal, and the right deal came along, and it's like, gonna have this guitar for the rest of my life. Like, I'm not, you know, like
yeah. Dude, I think that is one of the most indescribable feelings as a musician when you save up for a guitar or for a piece of gear, especially like the way you phrase that is it's something that I've had the exact same thought, especially when you're like, this is what I'm going to play for the rest of my life.
Yep.
It's like there's nothing like that process, and then getting it and the way it feels, and like that first night you have with it. Like I typically use a Jazz Master when we're on stage, and it's, you know, making that decision, like, this is gonna be the guitar I play. Like, you research it, you try and figure out what guitar tone you want, what look, what, like, how it's supposed to feel, and then once you get it, it's like, oh my god, this is like, it's like marriage, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, because the entire time while you're investigating that stuff, it's like, I mean, I don't know if you have this subconsciously or not, but like whenever I'm picking something out like that, I'm like, how am I going to relate to this? Like, how is this going to become a part of me? It's like I'm like attaching myself in my identity to like this beautiful instrument, whether it's this or whether it's any of the others that, you know, it's like I've picked up in my travels. You know, it's always that in mind. So it's like it's an extension of you, kind of. And when you get to that point where you've done all that research, it's like, you know, something might come along the way where it's slightly different than what I had in mind, or, you know, it's a little bit to the left, or it's this cousin, or it's this other company. And it's like, no, I know what I want, and I need exactly this, and I'll wait until I find it. And
and then you make a good point. Like this guitar, we had a day off, and we have a friend who lives in Charlottesville, and we stayed with her in between dates, and we were in a pawn shop, and this guitar was in there, and everyone was kind of walking around checking all the different stuff, and I just started playing this, and I ended up playing it for like a half hour, and I was like, fuck, I gotta get this guitar. Like,
awesome.
And that's how it happens.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's a beautiful instrument.
Yeah, I love hollow bodies.
Mm-hmm. Me too. I like usually hollow bodies.
Also, just like a disclaimer, I'm sitting on like a leather piano seat that keeps making kind of fart sounds. So for all the viewers who are seeing this later, I swear it's not what you think, if that's coming through. All right, I'm gonna do the next cover. I'm gonna do Rhiannon. Make sure this baby's still in tune. Yeah. All right, let's give it a go.
Rhiannon rings like a bell through the night, and wouldn't you love to love her? Takes to the sky like a bird in flight, and will be your lover. All your life you've never seen a woman taken by the wind. Would you stay if she promised you heaven? Would you ever win? She's like a cat in the dark, and then she is the darkness. She rules her life like a fine skylark, and when the sky is starless, all your life you've never seen a woman taken by the wind. Would you stay if she promised you heaven? Would you ever win? Or would you ever win? You've never seen woman taken by the wind. Would you stay? She promised you heaven. Would you ever win?
Yeah, I wanted to do I'm gonna butcher this riff,
right before you kicked it, but I was gonna say that is like my riff.
What kind of? What'd you say? What type of riff it is? Is it?
Whenever I turn my guitar on at my at a show, it's like it's the riff that I sound check with.
Yeah.
Always.
It's such a cool riff. I was trying to learn it so I could play it too, and I just like, it wasn't coming out the way that I wanted to.
Well, and the other cool part about the way that record is written is, I mean, it's like that guitar riff is awesome, and it's not even really like the coolest part of the song is the bass line, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It's just Fleetwood Mac made some pretty awesome songs, which is why I'm glad we. I see you're a bit out of.
Yeah, I'm a little blurry. Sorry about that. Let me turn off my camera, turn it back on. I usually do that. Oh, everyone, that's my girlfriend. There we go. Yeah, great choice.
Yeah, because I was looking back through your previous episodes to be like, okay, what have they covered? And I wanted to pick a band that I felt like had a huge catalog and you could go any way with it or go your own way.
Ooh, I like that little plug.
And it's hard. It's like, I didn't want to pick the Beatles. I didn't want to be that guy.
I did the podcast that I have coming out tomorrow with Pine Barrens. That we did Beach Boys.
Nice.
And we were talking about actually Beatles and Fleetwood Mac. He originally was going to choose Fleetwood Mac, and then he went with Beach Boys. But Beach Boys are fucking hard, dude. Yes. That was like the hardest one I've done. Like, I was watching back, and it's happy. And the fun of this podcast is like getting my ass kicked by by all the greats, learning their music. But like those songs are so happy that you're like, oh, I'll do Wouldn't It Be Nice? And it's gonna be sweet. And then you sit down and you start to work it out, and you're like, these are some crazy arrangements and chord progressions, and there's always a harmony fucking going on. And the Beatles are the same way, and that's kind of what that conversation was. Is we were talking about how the Beatles and Beach Boys are the things where you're like, oh, we'll just do this, and then you sit down and you start learning, and you're like, what were they doing? Like,
yeah, no, I totally feel that way. Derek, our guitarist Derek, has a special affinity for the album Pet Sounds, and Wouldn't It Be Nice is so. I remember being I was in 8th grade, and I participated in a 40-person cover of that song. And I was like one of the it's gonna make it ooh.
Oh,
but yeah,
yes.
So much going on in that song. I do not envy anybody trying to cover the Beach Boys, for sure. But I will say though, with the Beach Boys and with Fleetwood Mac and also with the Beatles, such a big part of their sound is the complexity of vocals that they have going on. And I will say, being in my band, everybody sings. So it's we're always doing harmonies and as much vocals as we can and different vocal parts and gangs in the chorus and, all that stuff. That is such I was a theater kid, growing up, and, I've always kind of had an affinity to, harmonies in church music and harmonies in bluegrass music and harmonies in rock and roll. And it's just that is such an endemic part of the way that I write a song, that I have to I've gotten to the point now in a lot of my writing where I'm using voices as instruments that don't sound like voices, but things that I did with my voice. And then I throw a bunch of filters on it, or I throw overdrive on it, and then it sounds like a synth solo. Or, I stack harmonies and then take all the formants off it, and it sounds like a spooky piano thing, but it's not. It's a bunch of voices. So
that's cool.
That's a really interesting thing that I've kind of started to explore, to abstract that theme one more layer with our writing.
Yeah, I love that. I feel like that's part of like the future of music, especially with having DAWs and like being able to record kind of on your own time and dime, like experiment with vocals that way. We have a song that we're working on where something similar where like it was the first song, you know, like I feel like when I was younger, um, that Jay-Z song came out, Death of Autotune, and like kind of my whole music career I've been like fuck autotune, da da da. And then that Fun record came out a couple years ago that was like really popular. I never really got into Fun, but he has that like auto-tune solo. And when we were working on this one song that came out, like I took it and I took this like part that I wanted to play on guitar and I ran it through a fuck ton of auto-tune and put a bunch of overdrive on it. And it sounds like a synth, you know,
Mhm.
but like it has that weird like sliding between notes. That's fun. And that's, you know, and like we're seeing that in hip hop and like so many places where like that's what like breaking boundaries is taking these tools and making them cool and like doing weird shit with them, you know, and it's fun. It's a fun time to be doing that kind of
Yeah,
stuff.
no, I'd say every time that I try to write a Bon Iver song and fail miserably, like I still learn something on my way there that informs the way I'm going to write the next song. It's like I've tried and failed so many times to try to write a song like 22 a million or something off his most recent record or whatever, because that stuff is just so ornate and weird and crazy and
Yeah.
such a way like it's like trying to communicate with an alien. Like I don't know if like in your songwriting you have somebody that like you shoot for when you're like shooting for the stars and you're trying to do something that is like way out of your reach, and then like it ends up being something else. But that's usually how I write, is like I try to do something in the style of somebody and I fail.
Yeah, I totally know what you mean. I feel like most of my music career, my defaults are going somewhere between like crooners like Morrison or The Strokes, Julian Casablancas. Like I love that low voice. And then like I have this other weird part of my personality that just wants to be Frank Black from the Pixies and just do like weird shit like in Gigantic when he's like I'm not gonna be able to hit the notes, but it's like like he just does that in the background behind Kim Deal. And it's
Uh-huh.
like, what are you doing back there? You know, like she's doing a vocal take and it sounds so cool for no reason. And he sounds like a little demon, you know? And so it's like, oh, I'm always like kind of just blustering between those two influences.
Yeah. I was listening to your 2019 record before as I was setting my stuff up, and it's like I picked up on Pixies, so I'm happy that you said that. But also, like I think by like the third song, I was like, okay, this is very Modest Mousy kind of
I
too.
love
I
Modest
don't know
Mouse. Yeah.
your repertoire, but yeah, that's definitely how I felt. But yeah, no, I that whole record that you put out in 2019, it's very it's very characteristically realized in my opinion. Like I mean, I don't want to tell you anything that you don't know, but like just listening to it, it's like, oh, this is so coherent. This is so realized stylistically, and like it knows what it wants to be, and like your voice is so like characteristic and such a it's like, oh, like from now on whenever I hear that, it's like, oh, that's the Retinas. It's like it doesn't really sound like much else, but it also reminds me of a bunch of other things at the same time. That's what's awesome about having influences and then like shedding them, having your own thing. It's like
Yeah.
it doesn't sound like anything else I'm hearing, but at the same time, I can kind of trace where it came from.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate that. I feel like when we recorded that, we were very much leaning like it felt like a time where we felt like we knew who we were musically and what we wanted. Um, and it's funny, like you know, kind of blustering between that crooning and that um, Frank Black kind of insanity. I like I a lot of times growing up, like my mom or my family would be like, are you all right? Like, why does it sound like that? And but like when we would tour, people would say similar things where they'd be like, I don't know if they were saying it as a compliment or if they were kind of scared, but they'd be like, I've never heard anything like that.
That's
And
awesome.
and like that's I feel like we're trying to find that, and we specifically didn't put anything out in 2020 because we wanted to like tour. We always want to tour off of whatever we're putting out, but since it seems like this is a never-ending thing, where we got plenty of stuff we stacked up for 2021, and we're gonna be releasing, and hopefully trying to lean it back into that sound, but also try out new costumes, like you were saying earlier, and see what it's like. Tried really experimenting with like singing lower and seeing kind of what our spectrum is and what works and what doesn't. So
that's awesome.
But on that note, I know you got another cover for us, and I've been excited for this cover specifically all week since I knew that you were going to do it, because this is the Fleetwood Mac song.
Oh, jeez.
Sorry, not to put that. No pressure.
Yeah. You've been waiting to hear it, and it's the Fleetwood Mac song. All right. Well, I hope I do it justice in my little special way. This is, yeah. We'll talk about it. But all right, here it goes. Took my love and I took it down. Climbed a mountain and I turned around, and I saw my reflection in the snow-covered hills, where the landslide brought me down. Oh, mirror in the sky, what is love? Can the child within my heart rise above? And can I sail through the changing ocean tides? And can I handle the seasons of my life? I don't know. Ooh, I don't know. Well, I've been afraid of changing, 'cause I build my life around you. But time makes you bolder, children get older, and I'm getting older too. Yeah. Na-na-na-na. I've been afraid of changing, 'cause I build my life around you. But time makes you bolder, and children get older, and I'm getting older too. Yes, I'm getting older too. So, would you take this love and take it down? Oh, we'll be climbing a mountain and you turn around, and if you see my reflection in the snow-covered hills, maybe the landslide will bring you down. Oh, the landslide will bring you down. Well, the landslide will bring you down.
disappoint at all. Incredible.
Glad to hear.
I love that when the guitar stops towards the end, the belts, beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, that is the song I've been going to since I was like 15 or 16, and we have played the same 3 Jimi Hendrix songs at the bar, and we're going on hour 3 of our 4-hour set. Yeah, and they throw me up there alone, and I just play Landslide. Yeah, that's always been the one in my back pocket for when we run out of material.
Yeah, one thing that I liked about watching you play that was I have a bunch of, including myself sometimes, I have a bunch of cheaters on the show, because we're learning like a cover in a couple of days, so usually there's a little cheat sheet for lyrics, and your eyes were closed for that, so I knew that was legit. That was all from the soul.
That song's like riding a bike too, because I go. I could go a couple of months without playing it, and I was like, I gotta get this Landslide cover back together, and it's just like, oh, here it is.
Yeah, and that's on an easy guitar part too. You were like, close your eyes. I was like, oh, this is for real right now.
Well,
hey,
when you've been playing the same guitar part for a decade, it becomes muscle memory more or less. But yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
And one thing that I was reading about Fleetwood Mac this week that I found really interesting was I don't think Landslide's on this record, but Rumors is the big record. I think it came out in like 77 or something.
Mm-hmm.
It was their 11th studio record, and it has like Dreams, and The Chain, and like that's like the Fleetwood Mac record.
Yep.
And I'm sure like after this year of 2020, where like we kind of spent the Ren spent the year kind of incubating and writing and recording and gathering things for hopefully whenever the world opens back up and we can play again. But you feel like you lose a year, like we feel like it's kind of taken away from us in a weird way, even though we were trying to be productive and were productive. And then seeing that Fleetwood Mac's Rumors was like their 11th full length, I was like, oh, okay. Like this, like that's crazy. They started in 67, like that's 10 years of music before they hit Rumors.
Yeah, well, and so like the 9 records or so before, they were a totally different lineup. It was like a 3-guitar like psych blues outfit in England, and
really?
And the bassist and the drummer, Mick Fleetwood is the drummer, and then Mick V is the bass player. They came to the States, and Christy McVie joined the band. That was the bassist's wife at the time, and she joined on keys and stuff. And they were in LA, and they didn't have a prayer. And they were just like totally reforming. It's like, are we going to do the blues thing again? What are we going to do? And Mick Fleetwood heard Lindsey Buckingham playing in, I don't know if you've ever seen Dave Grohl's Sound City documentary, but they talk about this.
I've seen some episodes. I don't think I saw this one.
Lindsey Buckingham was talking about, look it up. Sound City is on Amazon. You can find it. It's like a 1-hour documentary about this recording.
Oh, no. I was thinking about the HBO series you did.
Which is also good.
Yeah.
But so Lindsey Buckingham was putting down guitar for Buckingham Nicks, which was Stevie Nicks and Lindsey Buckingham together. And Mick Fleetwood said, I want that guitar player to join my band. And the engineer was like, that's fine, but just know that you're going to have to hire his girlfriend too. And that's how that lineup came together, where it was Stevie Nicks, Lindsey Buckingham, Christy McVie, the bass player, and Mick Fleetwood.
Wow.
And so they put out that self-titled, which was the 10th album, that had Rhiannon, which is what you played, and Landslide also. And I don't know if there was any other hits on that first record other than those 2 songs. I'm sure somebody's going to crucify me for not knowing. But Dreams was their second record. And or second record with that lineup.
Of Rumors,
Yeah. And during that whole time, the McVies had divorced, and Christy McVie was dating the sound guy for the band, or the lighting guy for the band. Lindsey Buckingham and Stevie Nicks were married, and they divorced either during the second record or the first record, but they were super angry at each other. And so they had all these, like, they would go and write these songs independently, and they hated each other, but then they would all come together and make this like awesome music. And it's like, that is something that I kind of wanted to talk to you a little bit about, like just in the context of Fleetwood Mac. It's like, you can see, even I was watching a concert that they did in like 1994, and it was like their kind of reunion, or like 1997. And you can just see, like, Dreams, Stevie Nicks wrote Dreams about how much she didn't like, how much she hated Lindsey Buckingham after their breakup. And to this day, when they're on stage together, she is turned and singing it at him. And he just has to like song and like just like look at her while he's singing his part. And he does the same thing when he sings You Can Go Your Own Way. You can watch all that concert footage, and he is staring daggers at her and singing that song. So like I almost kind of wanted to talk to you about it. It's like, is there like do you think that a band can be successful in spite of that kind of toxic, like, interpersonal relationships, and it's just the music is that incredible? Or do you think it ever gets to the point, like in a band's chemistry, where there has to be some kind of tension or animosity to make the magic happen? I don't, you know, I won't ask you to indict anybody in your band, but you know, it's like, what are for it seems to me like you're probably friends with the folks in your band. The guys in my band are going to be in my wedding, so like I can't say that, you know, that I have a Fleetwood Mac dynamic, but like, what else is there? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. No, I think you bring up a good point. I obviously, you know, before diving into what I'm about to say, like, I don't think that anyone should be in a toxic situation, but I think that, like, the older I get, the more I realize whether it's with music, or sports or any kind of competition, usually that fire and that passion is where the magic is.
yeah,
And a lot of times we associate it, and it's because a lot of times it is with like it being negative. But like, you know, there's this UFC fighter. I love UFC, and there's this UFC fighter, John Jones, and he's like he's the best of all time. Like, been champion for the last 10 years, like hasn't been beaten. And he's been arrested multiple times. And one of the times, like, he was like high on cocaine and was running from the cops, like jumping over fences and backyards and shit. And people are like criticizing him for that. But like, you don't have that kind of craziness. And I heard this on another podcast. They were talking about this exact situation. But you don't have somebody who's that good at fighting without having the crazy part of him.
yeah.
You know, like, you don't have like, and that goes, you know, sports are the easiest thing. Acting is the same way, where like, you don't have a Marlon Brando. Like, I remember listening to Marlon Brando was like in an acting class where he was big, and the exercise was everybody had to be a chicken. So of course everybody's walking around clucking, and Marlon Brando just sat down and tried to lay an egg. Like, that was, you know, and like, you don't have genius without that weirdness, you know. It's like, and I think that, to the point you're making about Fleetwood Mac, it exists the same way, where for them specifically, their fire and passion is them looking at each other on stage like, fuck you, bro. Like, this is about you 30 years later, you know, like, but what do you think about that?
Well, honestly, that is one of my biggest points of self-consciousness. And it's like, it is such a champagne problem, to borrow a phrase, to be like, man, I wish that I had some of that dysfunction that I could tap into to inform my art. But like, honestly, as I've come to meditate on it, it's like, I have to find the subject matter that gets me into that place.
Mm-hmm.
And like, everybody has their personal issues and struggles, but like, not everybody who makes music processes that stuff through their music. Mm-hmm. And like, I'm somebody that because I don't personally use music as an outlet to like talk about my feelings. I have to find the subject material that's going to make me write the best song that I can write and write the best lyrics that I can write. So like all of the themes in our music for the most part are kind of bigger, are commentaries or satire on what I see as bigger societal trends, or and that in itself becomes a game and becomes a place to drill inspiration from, because I try to think about how many layers of irony can I cloak this in, how many metaphors can I use to veil what I'm talking about. And it's kind of a fun exercise for me to be able to say, well, this line has a parallel double meaning, this is a pun, this is that. So that's where it comes in for me. And I think the biggest thing that an artist has to do is find what kind of artist they want to be and what they want to say.
Yeah, I think that's a huge point.
I know that sounds kind of trite or obvious, but I think that's the challenge, honestly. And once that happens, you assume that the music comes.
Yeah, and I think that an important thing about that for artists is the point you're making, which is to be honest with yourself about the type of artist you are. Because I think that it's very obvious, and I'm sure you've seen it a million times in music scenes, when somebody wants to have bigger issues than they have, or somebody wants that that dysfunction in a way where they're making it up, but not in a way that's creative, in a way that's kind of strange and ingenuine. And then on the opposite side of that, like we're all fucking cool. Like every person on this planet has cool shit about them. That's a great thing about the human experience, is we're all special in our own sort of way. And I think what's cool about art, and I think what's cool about something like the internet that's bringing us together and giving us access to learn more about ourselves, is like on the opposite end of being honest with who you are. Like in our weirdnesses is where the magic is, like in sometimes that's trauma, sometimes that's like in like what you're talking about, of like having fun with the language of the song and finding the irony and flipping it, or the process of coming together with the band and this person bringing that and that, like that's where the magic is. And that's beautiful, and for like Fleetwood Mac, it's that weird hating each other shit, and where we view those things as like, or society views those things as strange or wrong. That's where our magic is. And it's good as long as you're not hurting people. Fleetwood Mac, I guess it was kind of a weird masochistic kind of consensual hurting.
Yeah.
But yeah, like as long as it's not toxic and hurting people, you can really get some magic out of that, and it's cool. And it's also a line that I think that artists and anybody and there's art in everything have to learn to kind of draw with themselves, where that growing up we romanticize like the 27 Club, and it's like that trauma and bringing that art from those depths of is beautiful, but also like we don't want artists ending up dying. Like we don't want more overdoses, so. But it's a cool thing to think about, because it's just, I don't know. I was raised in a way where, kind of where I felt like a black sheep, and everything was like, my parents were lawyers, so, and I love my parents to death, but like, so everything's orderly and presented in a very specific way, and anything outside of that was strange. So in my frame of thinking, I kind of always was afraid of that strangeness, and music gave me the opportunity to lean into that, and I think that's what people are discovering about themselves, is what you think is strange or not right is usually where your magic is.
Yeah.
I hope that made sense. I know that was a long-winded way of saying that.
No, I think that's absolutely right. But also, like, the whole time along the way, being honest with yourself about what you're not. And that, I mean, that doesn't mean that you can't work towards being something, but I just mean, like, if I write a line of a lyric and I sing it and it doesn't feel right and it doesn't feel like something I would authentically say, I can't sing it without feeling embarrassed. You know what I mean? Like,
so true.
I couldn't earnestly cover like a Rihanna song or something, or maybe I could. I don't know, but like I don't know if I could write a song for Katy Perry or write a song for Rihanna. You know what I mean? Or like write a song for Justin Bieber or something like that, because I like it wouldn't feel. I don't know. I don't know. Like at this point in my life, like I don't want to sing. I was having this conversation with our guitarist. I was like, I don't want to just sing about like people shaking their ass or like you know my 100th day dealing with this thing or something, or just saying something that everybody else is already saying. You know, it's like, well, and like just for the sake of saying it, you know, it's like saying something that everybody else is saying and it being authentically in your voice is one thing, but like copying and pasting and trying to just iterate something that you've heard in the scene, or something that, you know, a truck down by the river and you're driving through the mud, like how many more of those songs need to be written? You know what I mean? It's like I'm very sensitive to overstepping on those tropes, or you know, riding a wave that everybody else is riding.
Yeah, I think what you're pointing towards is like it has to be genuine, and I think people can smell that when you're genuine or not genuine from 50 miles away. You know, I think that any listener in any genre really knows, and when it's not genuine, you can feel it, and when it is, like, you know, going to like a Justin Bieber or Rihanna, who, like, I wouldn't say that I'm somebody who knows Justin Bieber's catalog in and out. And there's songs like Baby, like that first breakout thing, where I'm like, all right, this is like, to me, it's pop music. It's not something that connects with me, but obviously connected to.
I love pop. I love Rihanna's last album, Anti. I listen to that record all the time. But
yeah. But then, like, you know, like Justin put out that song late last year, or maybe it was earlier this year, Lonely, and not only is it so fucking good because it's completely genuine,
yeah,
but like something that I feel like he's able to do is find these things and make them cool. Like he yodels in that song. Like, like he fucking yodels. And it was like one of the biggest songs in the world. You know, like that is like a crazy drip to be able to like not only write something genuine, write something that's sensitive and specifically hard to share with the world and hard to make connecting, because people don't always want to connect with sad music, especially in a pop genre. Yeah. But then to bring fucking yodeling into it, like it was, I like that, you know, and I love that other song. It came out a couple of years ago. It has like the synth sax solo in it. Love Yourself. Like, if you think da 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 da, like that song is also great. Like when he talks about like how his mom loves, or his mom doesn't love the person he's talking about, like she loves everybody. Like, yeah, I think that's like some of the coolest stuff is, and people can feel that when it's genuine. And then when you can take something like, I know I'm really stuck on this yodeling thing, but like yodeling and make it beautiful and sound incredible, I'm like, hats off to you, man. That's what it's all about.
Yeah. There's I know Jack Antonoff talks a bit about that when he talks about writing pop music or writing pop lyrics, where it's like there has to be things in the song that are like simultaneously unique to what you're writing about, or like unique to your songwriting, and universally accessible or memorable. It's like you have to be able to paint at the same time. You have to paint a picture that the listener hasn't seen before and is imminently familiar to them, right? So like, it can't be so esoteric. I can't sing about philosophers, and battles in space and shit, unless I was a prog band. Rush did that, but like I can't pull that off without alienating people not knowing what I'm talking about, or like singing about a specific video game or something. And I also can't sing about like what everybody else is singing about with the same metaphors and the same pictures. So it's like you have to find those pictures in people's minds and those similes in people's minds that they don't know is familiar to them yet, but is familiar to them. So it's like that's also the thing that I'm always trying to do. I'm trying to bring in a reference to something that people don't normally give. And I feel like that's kind of the same way that a lot of successful pop music that is memorable, like Lonely and like Love Yourself. I'm sure there's a bunch of other songs, like Driver's License, that song that just came out this year. That was a big smash on TikTok.
Mm-hmm.
That is like a very novel metaphor that is imminently accessible to a wide swath of people. And that's what makes that a successful song, in my opinion.
But yeah, I also think that the most important part of it is you yourself thinking it's cool. Is like if you're about it, then like it's like when your best friend is into a movie that you would never watch by yourself, and they're like, yo, there's this scene that's like crazy because it was like improv, and then you watch it with them and you're like, you like it more because of them. It's like this telekinetic energy or something like that. I think transfers through music, like being like, yo, yodeling is fucking cool, and then like showing how it's cool or is like, I think that's what can kind of transcend. Like the podcast I was talking about earlier that's coming out tomorrow, Pine Barrens are working on a cover record of this Japanese band called Fishmans that Keith, the lead singer, just found. He doesn't speak Japanese, and he was like, this is amazing, the world should know about this. I'm going to translate it and make a cover record. And like just this and it's like, if I was thinking about it, I was thinking like, if I came across this record, would I connect with it the way I'm connecting with it because Keith's like, yo, like listen, like this is a 30-minute long song, or like this part is crazy, and that's what I think that is a universal, like being about something and being able to recognize the beauty in it and therefore show it to the world.
Yeah, you definitely have to be an evangelist for whatever your art is. It's like, especially today when there's so much fighting for our attention. Nobody's going to go out of their way to dig through the multiple, links and layers of abstraction to get to, your Bandcamp, or, to listen to one of your songs for more than 60 seconds or whatever. So like, you have to be the one that's out in the world telling other people about your music. And like, I meant to touch on this earlier, but what's funny about this whole thing, like one of the silver linings of the whole situation with the pandemic and with going to being a mostly online band, is like, we are more connected as a band with other bands and other artists and acts than we were before all this happened. And it's like, just through blind, like scrolling and like hearing ads on the Instagram feed and liking the music, and then going and finding that person and having them on the podcast or talking to them through this, or like meeting an artist through an artist. And it's like it's wild. It's wild how that happens. But it have to be out there, and you have to tell people who you are and be interested to hear who they are.
Yeah I think that's a big point too, is learning about people is like some of the funnest thing. And I think you're right. I think in a way bands are like more connected, and like me and you have never met in person. And not only has this been a great podcast, but it makes me look forward to whenever we'll play a show or be at the bar and be able to have a drink, and do this in person. It sets up the future in a cool way.
Yes, trust me, we are looking forward to that. There's going to be there's going to be like a week-long Philly. I don't know. I don't even know. Like the possibilities are endless.
We're all gonna come out. Yeah, it's gonna be a good time.
It's going to be Woodstock.
All right, so now we're gonna do some originals. Well, original each. So I'll start it off. I'm gonna do a song from that record called Visual Snow. And then you'll close out the show for us with something beautiful.
Very good.
All right.
I chase the mountaintops around in my head. I think about tomorrow too often again. I tell everyone I'm suiting up, my mind's bouncing around the sounds of the things that I'll be giving up, things that I'll be putting down, things I'm putting down. I think I'm giving in, I think that I'm just giving up. My eyes are so tired from the lights flashing in them. And I could love the girl, I know that I could love this world, but everyone's a sinner and they're wretched, especially me, especially me. So babe, why won't they listen to me? Oh babe, why won't they listen to me? And if tomorrow I'll come down to the lake and I'll let myself drown, will I leave this world with a smile or a frown? And my hat's off to everyone for sticking around. Why won't they listen to me? And I can't help but roam around in my head. I smile with my friends as we're running from our shadows. And I'm surrounded by these loving people all the time, but I feel so fucking broken, must be broken. And why won't they listen to me? Oh, now, babe, why won't they listen? I'm gonna do it now. I'm gonna do it now. I gotta lay myself down. I'm gonna do it now. I'm gonna do it now. I gotta lay myself down.
Really cool to hear that. Like I said, I listened to that whole record. Cool to hear that in a different context.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I don't think yet on this podcast I played one of the original songs the right way. I don't know if I'm supposed to hold those chords longer or not, but I was like, I'm just gonna go with it.
That's the magic of getting to arrange things to play for one versus playing for a band. It's always special that way.
Yeah, it's fun. And That's what I like about the podcast specifically is hearing, not only kind of having the project and the fun of putting a stripped down version of our favorite songs, our covers, but like hearing bands specifically, like their version of their song. So before you play your original, let me know or let the world know what's going on with Tioga. So you said that so do you pronounce it Tioga or Tioga?
So we pronounce it Tioga, but
Okay.
because Tioga is the street and the camper van and the county in Pennsylvania, and Tioga is the band. That's what we say.
Cool. Tioga, sorry about that. I should have gotten that straight in the beginning. So you said that you had a split that you were working on this year. What else? Tell me more about that and tell me what's going on for the rest of the year for you guys.
The plan is we've got a bunch of singles kind of in the pipeline. So we've got 3 singles, and we're gonna do 3 individual splits with 3 separate artists. We just put out a song on the Philly Loves You holiday album that was benefiting Fort Leaves.
Awesome.
We'll play that tonight. But all this is kind of ramping up towards our next full length that is probably going to come out like 2022 into 2023. I think we're going to release it in like 3 parts. And that's really exciting because I've been like writing and conceptualizing the material for the record since 2018. So it's kind of cool to spend that long on something and the narrative arcs in it and the sonic direction of it, and then have it like coming up to being a fully gestated thing that we're going to put out in the world. It's really exciting, to sit on demos for 3 years, 4 years, and just like slowly watch the record evolve until it's written and out. So that's our big 2-year, 3-year plan coming down the pipe.
That's awesome, man. And that's such a cool evolution, to have songs from then and to slowly it's like building a farm or something, it's really putting it together. That makes me excited for how that's going to sound. And that's a pretty epic undertaking too, to go a couple of years with the songs and see how they change and grow and how they interact with each other.
Yeah. And all the stuff, a lot of the stuff that was written pre-pandemic, like it's kind of creepy. I mean, without making any, grand declarations of any prophetic power or anything like that. It's just it's weird the meaning that certain lyrics or certain songs take on with the context of what's happening right now. And it's like the stuff that I wrote in 2018 was meant to have a different meaning, and then everything that happened in the last 2 years happened, and it's like it's going to be interpreted, or can be interpreted in a totally different way just by virtue of where we're. Yeah, so it's kind of just like a happy accident that's kind of occurred over the life of writing and conceptualizing the project. So really excited to put that out. I don't know when we're putting it out, but excited to put it out.
Cool. Yeah, I'm excited to hear it. And for what you're working on this year, you said there's 3 singles and then you're going to do a split. So are you going to release the 3 singles, Tioga's version of them, and then follow them up with 3 different splits, and the artist will be covering yours, and then you'll, or how is that going to work?
Yeah. So we are going to cover one of their songs. They're going to cover our song, and we're going to put the band's native version out at the same time as well. So that's like 3 originals for us and 3 covers of other people. And then each of those folks will have, their own version of their song and then their version of our song.
So there'll be 9 songs total, 3 of them which will be yours.
6
songs. Okay, cool.
No, you're right.
Cool.
No. 12 songs total.
This math is getting crazy.
6 covers.
Cool. Well, I'm looking forward to it, man. And you said you're gonna do a song from the Ortlieb's album, the Philly Holiday album that just came out.
Yes. So I will say that, for as much talking as I did about not being able to write about personal stuff, I also think that a very important part of not getting too entrenched in your process and things not getting too boring is challenging yourself to trying to write songs that you struggle to write. And my fiance has always joked for as long as we've been together that like I haven't written any songs about our relationship or whatever. And so I was like, I'm going to try to write like the sappiest, most personal love song I can. And then like my whole vision for it was like I wanted to do like a soft rock 70s pastiche, like overly like cheesy arrangement. But the other guys in the band kind of
Dial it back.
We pared that back a little bit. So it doesn't sound like 70s soft rock as much on the record as it sounds like Henry was going for Lover, the track off of the album of the same name by Taylor Swift. So that's kind of where it landed. But yeah, this is the maybe the one sappy love song that I've written in this band. And it was a challenge to write for me because I'm not always Mr. Feelings, but it was fun writing it.
Cool, man. Looking forward to it.
All right, here it goes. This is called, the song is called Why. And I'll just say that the Philly Loves You Philly Holiday album is on Bandcamp for $15, and those proceeds go to supporting Ortlieb's. I don't know if you love Ortlieb's as much as we do.
Yes.
But, a venue that's always been near and dear to our hearts and has always been super kind to us, and always gives kind of the smaller voices a place to play. So that's let's help them out if we can. The song's called Why.
The highest bird in the tallest tree, the strangest creature in the deep blue sea, and Father Time with his shifting sands. Even Mother Nature will never understand why I love you the way I do. It's the way you're talking in your sleep. It's the way you can't wait to start smiling at me. And hair grows from blonde to gray as I grow older, relearning every day why I love you the way I do. Why I love you the way I do.
I stumble, you carry me home. You leave the light on when I feel like I'm alone. When kingdom comes, when I close my eyes, I will remember until I die why I love you the way I do. Why I love you the way I do. There it is.
That was great, dude.
Thank you.
I love that. Yeah, very sincere, and yeah, I like that a lot, man.
Thank you very
It's very different from the rest of your stuff, and in a very cool way. And I loved everything that I was hearing from you guys. But this was like a whole nother side to you.
Yep. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Did your fiance love it?
She did. It was. I couldn't go on Valentine's Day for a card or flowers or anything, so I just played the master that we got back before we gave it to Philly Holiday Album, and I was in the clear. I did not spend any time with dog.
Well, it's very sincere and very lovely. It was great.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's fun to challenge yourself. To try to write a song in a different way or through a different process, or something that you don't always tread on the path of. So that's what that was for me, and yeah, had a lot of fun doing it.
Awesome, man. Well, I think it's about time we wrap this up. It's been such a pleasure having you, man. Been
Thanks
great
so much
conversations.
I really appreciate it. It's been an awesome time.
Yeah. Thanks so much to Greg for coming on the podcast. His band is Tioga. They're another great Philly band. That song he just played, Why, is on the Philly Holiday album that goes to supporting Ortlieb's, which is the best venue in Philly, and Kyle and everyone over there is amazing and is the reason there is a Philly music scene. You can find Tioga on Spotify, on Instagram, any other places you want to plug for them, for Tioga?
TikTok. We're on TikTok now. Hello, fellow kids.
TikTok, yeah. We got to follow each other on TikTok. We just got on TikTok too.
Yep. Yeah, wherever you listen to music, just look up Tioga and you'll find us.
Perfect. So yeah, check them out. Subscribe to the podcast, That Song, Your Song, My Song podcast. Follow us on Instagram, follow the Retinas, and see you next time. Thanks so much, everyone.